Hello there, this is an Algebra 1 video. It is Chapter 8, Section 4, and today we're going to be discussing special products, and there are basically 3. You can even reduce that to 2 if you take into account that this first one, the square of a sum, is pretty much the exact same formula as the square of a difference, with the exception that instead of a plus, you'd have a minus. So what I want to do first is explain basically where the formula comes from, so you can see that it's kind of blank right now because I'm not quite done there yet, but the square of a sum is when basically you have, it's also referred to as the square of a binomial, because you have a binomial term in here where you have 2 terms, which are color coordinated for your convenience and ease of understanding and following where it's going. So, square of a sum means literally a plus b quantity squared. A lot of times students want to take this and call it a squared plus b squared, but I want to show you right now how that's not the way you want to go. And basically, when you square something, it means you multiply it by itself. In other words, 2 squared is 2 times 2, 5 squared is 5 times 5, a squared is a times a, and in this case, a plus b squared is a plus b times a plus b. So if you use the FOIL method that we learned in the last section, and you go first times first, you're going to get a times a, which is a squared. And then if you do the O for the outside terms, you have a times b, and they're both positive, so you're going to get a positive ab. And then when you do the inside terms, you're going to get another positive AB. And then your last times last will be B times B, which is B squared. So you'll notice that I mentioned earlier that a lot of times students want to put A squared plus B squared. You do have an A squared and a B squared term. The part that students often forget is the middle term. You have 2 ABs there. You have a plus AB and a plus AB, which ends up being A squared plus 2AB plus b squared, and this is your formula, if you will. All right, so notice that you don't want to assign a positive or a negative value to a and b. It's all taken care of in the formula itself. So anytime you have the square of a binomial or the square of a sum, you're going to get a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So we're going to show you how to apply that in this problem right here. So in this case, one of the first things that you have to be able to do is to identify what a and b are. So in this case, my a is 3x, and my b is going to be 5. So you have 3x in the a spot and 5 in the b spot, so you have a plus b, and it's squared. So now, instead of going through the problem the long way by foiling, actually foiling takes a lot longer, you actually want to do this using your formula, which we know now is going to be a squared, so that means you're going to take 3x and square that. Then you're going to have plus 2 times a times b. So a is 3x again, and then b is 5. So there's your 2ab, and then plus b squared. It's very important that you remember that when you square a, when you get a squared, a lot of times students will forget to square the 3. So they might put something like 3x squared. But you want to square the 3 and the x, so when you square the 3, you get 9. So you should have 9x squared. And then 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 times 5 is 30. So we're going to get plus 30x, and then 5 squared is 25. So this is our final answer, 9x squared plus 30x plus 25. So now if you will try this do-it-yourself example, we will go on to the square of a difference. As I said earlier, it's pretty much the same thing as the square of a sum, with the exception that you have a minus. And so we're going to see what happens when you have a minus. Again, we're going to start by using the FOIL process to explain to you, or to show you, prove if you will, why the formula is what it is. So again, a minus b quantity squared means that you're multiplying it by itself. So a minus b times a minus b. And if you use FOIL, first times first is a squared. Outside times outside is positive a, negative b. So it's going to be a negative ab. And then inside times inside is positive a, negative b. So you have another negative ab. And then last times last is going to be negative b times negative b, which is actually positive b squared. And so you get something that's very similar to what we had previously. You still have your a squared and your b squared. But this time your like terms are not plus ab and plus ab, it's minus ab and minus ab. So you get minus 2ab. So the only difference between the square of a sum and the square of a difference is that the middle term is negative in this case, and it was positive in the earlier case. So now we're going to apply this little guy. So again, it is very important that you identify A and B first. So A is 2x in this case, and B is going to be 5y. Notice that I'm not saying that B is negative 5y. You leave the negative alone and just do the A and the B, because again, the formula is going to take care of the negative all by itself. So if you put negative 5y, you're going to have an extra negative in there, so you don't want to do that. So we're going to do a squared, which is 2x squared, and this is going to have minus 2 times a times b, and a is 2x, and b is 5y, and then plus b squared. And then our job is to simplify this. So again, you want to make sure that you square both the 2 and the x. So you're going to get 4x squared. 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 5 is 20. So you're going to get minus 20xy. And then here you're going to get 5 squared is 25, and then y squared. So your final answer will be 4x squared minus 20xy plus 25y squared. So again, if you will try this do-it-yourself number 2, we're going to go on to our third, or actually we're going to stay here for a little bit and do an application problem first, and then we'll go to our third special product. So in this case, it says each edge of a cube of aluminum is 4 centimeters less than each edge of a cube of copper. So basically, if you look at my little diagrams here, this is copper, and this is aluminum. Aluminum, let's see if I can spell correctly here. Aluminum. So what they're telling us that aluminum, the edge of aluminum is 4 centimeters less than the edge of copper. So if it's less, then you would expect the aluminum cube to be smaller than the copper cube. So that's kind of what you're seeing there. And then if I'm going to go ahead and call the edge of the copper, just call it C, then the aluminum is going to be C minus 4 because it's 4 centimeters less than that of the copper. So that's why I have C here and C minus 4 there. It says write an equation to model the surface area of the aluminum cube. So surface area, first of all, in a cube, all of the sides, all of the surfaces of the cube are the same. They have the same area. That's why it's a cube. So for the surface area, all we need is length and width of any one of the sides. So surface area is going to be, for the copper one, is going to be C times C, or basically C squared, because this edge is C, and so all of them have to be the same. So it's going to be C times C. But in the case of aluminum, you're going to get a surface area that is C minus 4 times C minus 4, because the edge of aluminum is C minus 4, and again, they're all the same. So C minus 4 times C minus 4. And they actually want us to find the surface area of the aluminum cube, as it says in the directions. So they're not interested in the copper cube, even though we know that that's C squared. What we want to find is the one for aluminum. So we have our formula here, and we know that A equals C, and that B equals 4. And again, I'm not attaching a negative to the 4, it's just C and 4. So according to our formula, we get A squared, which is C squared, minus 2 times A times B plus B squared. So I'm using the formula here, and so I'm going to simplify that now. And negative 2 times C is negative 2C, and negative 2C times 4 is negative 8C. And then 4 squared is 16. So the equation that represents the surface area of the aluminum cube turns out to be C squared minus 8C plus 16. Alrighty then. Now, we're going to go on to, this is your do-it-yourself question, and then we're going to move on to the last special product, which is when you have a product. We did the product of a sum and a difference individually. In other words, we had A plus B times A plus B We had a minus b times a minus b. And this is the case where you have one of each. You have a plus b and a minus b, which is the exact same thing if you had it in the reverse order, a minus b times a plus b. It wouldn't affect the formula at all. And so we're going to show you what this one comes out to be. If we use FOIL, I'm just going to go ahead and do this one here. A times a is going to be a squared. Outside times outside, you're going to get a positive a and a positive b, so a positive ab. Inside times inside, you're going to have a positive a and a negative b, so it's going to be minus ab. And then last times last is going to be negative b times positive b, which is negative b squared. And so what you're going to see here is that you still have your a squared term and your b squared term, but this time your b squared term is negative. And also what you'll notice is that the middle terms, the like terms, they have a positive ab and a negative ab, so they basically cancel each other out, and there is no middle term. This is the case where you actually do have a squared minus b squared, but that only happens when you basically have one of each. It's a positive and a negative, or a negative and a positive. You're going to get a squared minus b squared as your formula. So here we have our last example. And so the first thing you want to do is identify a and b again. So a is going to be 2x squared this time. And then b is going to be 3. So you have a plus and a minus. And so according to the formula, we're going to get a, which is 2x squared. So that's a squared minus b squared, which is 3. And so again, I want to remember that you want to square the 2 and square the x squared. So 2 squared is 4, and x squared squared, that's a power raised to a power, so you multiply the x one is there, so you get x to the 4th power. And then of course 3 squared is 9. So your final result is 4x to the 4th minus 9. So if you will finish off this do-it-yourself number 4, once you have done that, you will have completed your notes for this lesson, and I will see you in class. And thank you for watching.